Senator from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank, obviously, Ranking Member Collins and Chairman Lieberman for really doing something very unusual around here, which is to get something out in a very short period of time, having it not only come up, being filed by Senator Gillibrand, her bill, and me with my bill, and then you both working together to move it forward for a hearing, and then that hearing going very well and coming out so quickly is unheard of, and I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank Leader Reid for bringing this bill to the floor today, as well as I said, Chairman Lieberman, Ranking Member Collins, and Senator Gillibrand. We've worked together to draft a bipartisan version of the Stock Act, an act that passed Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee by an overwhelming margin. And that's appropriate because this is, it isn't a partisan or ideological issue. It's about cleaning up Washington. Abraham Lincoln spoke at Gettysburg of fighting to preserve government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I think if the approval ratings are any indication, the American people have lost faith that we are living up to Lincoln's ideal, and we need to do it better. They have lost faith that Congress works for them. They believe too many members of Congress have come to Washington to make themselves rich or do other things instead of taking care of the people's business, and that Congress only steps in to bail out the people with the most money or the most lobbying power, and that's not right. With the bill before us today, we can take a small step to reestablishing the trust between the American people and Congress. If we pass the Stock Act this week, it will send a very strong and unified message to the American people that Congress does not consider itself above the law. We can start to finally address that deficit of trust that the President referenced in his State of the Union address. Members of Congress must live by the same rules that govern every other American citizen. As you recall from a 60 Minutes investigation only 2 months ago, we learned that members of Congress, their staff, as well as other federal employees may be using material non-public information for their personal gain, either through stock trades, real estate deals, or other financial activity. Everyone agrees that this should be illegal, or it already is, as referenced by the ranking member in her very thorough explanation of the law and the problems with it. But somehow, despite all of the evidence, there has never been a single member of Congress or congressional staffer charged with insider trading. I have to admit, like you and many others, I was shocked by this report. I think we all were, and as a result, I filed my version of the Stock Act, which would prohibit members and employees of Congress from using material non-public information for their personal benefit. When Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee held a hearing on the state of insider trading and the law as such, it applies to Congress. One thing was very, very clear. Although, as Ranking Member Collins said, the SEC theoretically has the ability to prosecute members, there's been no precedent for it. And the state of law at this point is very, very unsettled. To remove any and all doubt, we need to act, and we need to act now. In addition to clarifying that insider trading is indeed a criminal offense, we are increasing the transparency of members' trading activity to make sure that our investment decisions are out there for everyone to see, plain as day. As President Ronald Reagan liked to say, trust but verify. In conclusion, I want to say that Senator Coburn has a phrase that I think is very accurate in this context. He talks about all the earmarks and contracts that in Washington spending that ends up in the hands of those people he calls, and I quote, well-heeled and well-connected. In my opinion, no one is more well-connected with more access to a wide range of privileged non-public information than members of Congress, their friends, employees, or family members. At a time when our economy is struggling and the average American family has to make hard economic choices, congressional members and staff should not be lining their pockets on insider information. Serving our country is a privilege, one that I cherish very, very much. I believe that we must level the playing field and show the American people that the United States Congress does not consider itself to be above the laws that we expect everyone else across the country to obey. I believe it's time to listen to our constituents and remember that every seat in this room is the people's seat. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield the floor.